YouTube, I am the Bearded Brother, and today we're taking a look at first line equipment, right? So we're looking at my equipment, some of the differences between first and second line, and otherwise. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, I would ask that you stop what you're doing right now, scroll down and look for that subscribe button, and once you found it, I would ask that you gently click that for me. I do appreciate it. And without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Alright guys, so like I said, we're talking first line gear today. What exactly is that, right? So for the folks out there that aren't familiar with the terminology, there's arguably 3 lines of gear or equipment, and some might even say that there are 4, right? And so again, we're looking at the first line today, but I'll take you quickly through what the differences are between first, second, third, and the hypothetical fourth line gear and equipment, right? And so, the first line gear, again, is typically going to be what's closest to your body, right? And arguably going to be the most important overall for long or short term survival, right? And so for most of us, we would consider our first line gear on a daily basis, at least, right, would be your EDC, the firearm which you carry, any flashlight, maybe a fixed blade or a pocket knife of sorts, and any additional first aid, your cell phone, car keys, and anything else that you keep in your pockets, right? The things that get you through the day, you would call that your first line gear. Okay, now your second line gear, and we're getting a little bit more tactical here, right? Your second line gear is going to be a little bit more like your fighting gear, and arguably what a lot of folks like to think of it as is essentially your second line gear is what supports, again, your fighting load. More times than not, your rifle or long gun setup, right? And so your second line gear would include things like extra magazines, the rifle itself, ammunition, maybe, a radio, additional IFAC and first aid. Those things are going to be considered part of your second line gear. So if you watched my recent video on the Spirited Systems Micro Fight Mark IV chest rig, that is a piece of my second line gear and equipment, right? And so then third line is anything that you would have on your back, right? So if you got a backpack, a rucksack, a satchel, if it's off your body potentially, or it could be left in a vehicle elsewhere, or again, it's not really coming with you, you might call that your third line. And then people go so far as, again, to categorize a fourth line of defense or fourth line of equipment, which would be anything that you have staged and stocked up at your house, right? So everybody out there watching, I imagine, has some ammunition stored up. If you don't, you're a little late to the party. But again, those type of things that you have stored in your home, whether that's additional equipment, gear, food, first aid, ammunition, water, those type of supplies, again, are going to be categorized, are going to be part of your third line, right? And so my first line gear that we're looking at here today is not what I would call my EDC or my everyday carry first line. I do not work with firearms. I'm not a police officer. I'm not ex-military. I'm none of the above. I'm a regular American that likes to exercise my rights, and I do from time to time get out from behind the shooting bays, right, and get out and get a little dirty and do some in the field training, if you want to call it that, right? Again, I'm still a civilian. So this is my first line for that. And again, this first line would be, again, I'm something of a prepper as well, so this would be a preparedness first line if ever SHTF and I need to bug out, for lack of a better term, right? This is probably going to be on my body, all right? And you can pretty much count on it. So what are we looking at here, right? I'll take you guys through from the top what I'm using on my first line, right? You guys can see it's a little dirty. You got some mud on there from being out and about, again, doing my training. So I've got a few things on here, and we'll kind of let's go left to right here. Okay, so first thing that we'll see on my setup here, of course, is going to be, well, let's take a look at the belt itself, right? This is a Blue Alpha, forgive me. Blue Alpha gear. This is one of their duty range use belts. It is actually a two-part system. And so you'll see on the back, right, we do have the rough Velcro material. And the reason being is because, right, the belt is, again, a two-part system, and it is shipped with an inner belt. And this can be used as an EDC belt. I used it for quite a while until I upgraded to their newer hybrid belt. Again, Blue Alpha gets all my belt money. But okay, so like I said, two-piece belt setup, right? So we got soft Velcro on this side, which of course naturally affixes itself to the rough hook and loop on the opposite side, right? And so then you put this around your belt or around your waistline, and then you would then take the belt itself and fix that on top. Reason I like this setup is you can wear this to the range, you can keep it on your car, whatever else you need to do, and you know, once you get to where you're going and you need to gear up, you can just simply stick this onto your belt, you know, and you don't need to do any belt loops, any changes in that regard, right? So Blue Alpha, top-notch gear. All right, if you're watching this, just go ahead and buy something from them. All right, so again, Blue Alpha gear. This is their two-piece range belt. So what have I got on here, right? Let's take a look. Of course, the first thing that I've got is my SIG P320. It is currently housed in a Safariland 6360. This is the ALS, and SLS version, right? So it's got 3 levels of security. Personally, I'm not an officer. I'm not a soldier. I don't necessarily need this extra hood, but I'm a person that I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right? So Safariland, hands down, some of the best holsters. Well, in my opinion, the best holsters. I don't know that I'll ever buy something else. Okay, so Safariland, can't go wrong there. This is a mid-ride, right? So they've got different levels at which your pistol will sit. I like the mid-ride. On the back at the 6 o'clock, we have a T-Rex Arms medical pouch. Now, again, talking about first-line equipment, it's important to consider what you might need at any given time, right? And being as we're talking about being out on the range, doing pew-pew things, it could happen, God forbid, that somebody be injured, and God forbid even further that I'm not prepared in that instance. Okay, and so what I've got in here, right, on the outside, of course, got some Blue Alpha representation, and a tourniquet in here. This is one of the Recon medical tourniquets. Been trying this out for a while. Keep this at the 6 o'clock because it has a aluminum windlass versus plastic. So I figured, hey, if I'm sitting down rolling around, which you can see I've done from time to time, my theory is that aluminum windlass should hold up better to that wear and tear. Okay, and so I like this pouch from T-Rex. It's not as quick access as some of the Blue Force gear pouches, but what I do like about it is, right, if I'm reaching back, and this is typically how it is staged on my belt, with this loop hanging out and the zippers kind of meeting on either side. If I was to reach back with my left hand, I can quickly unzip, and I don't even really need to mess with the right side. At that point, you can just kind of wiggle it out, and that entire tray you see there kind of comes out with the use of that loop there. Okay, so this is just a random IFAC trauma kit that I put together. I do keep additional gear staged in the second line and beyond, right? And so shout out to the guy that commented on my Spiritus video and told me to keep another one of these on my second line. We're doing that. All right, so what I've got in here, right? We've got a NAR, North American Rescue Emergency Trauma Dressing. This is a 4-inch flat. I'm not gonna take all this stuff out, guys. It's trauma kit gear, right? I've got 2 chest seals in there. You can see the hyphens back there. I've got the quick clot gauze. I think there's some regular gauze down in there as well. Cat tourniquet on the belt, as we talked about. And then I've got additional supplies, redundancies, duplicates on my second line and third line for that matter as well. Okay, so medical gear, it's often overlooked in the industry. I don't know why. This stuff's as cool as the PP stuff. You just have to have it, right? Okay, so what else do we have here? This is a regular, run-of-the-mill Rothko dump pouch. I like this. It served me well, right? I started off cheap, decided I'd go with the cheap stuff versus cashing out on something a little nicer. And you can see in there right now, I've got a whole bunch of loose money, essentially, right? And so I like this thing. I won't do it right now, but essentially it can fold up and once it's folded right, it'll stage nicely on your belt, sits nice and flat, just like that. So got some extra ammo in there for the time being, but so be that. All right, and so what else do we have? Esstac Kiwi mag pouches. If you guys have been on the channel for a while, I did do a early review of these. Holding up great. Love these things. In fact, I need some more. I need some in Ranger Green. Okay, so Esstac Kiwi, they've got good retention. You can see they've got the Kydex inserts in there. So nylon on the outside, Kydex on the inside. Good retention there for both my pistol and long arm magazines. And then that's more or less it, guys, right? I've got a little strap on here just to try to, you know, keep it fixed to my leg. I haven't splurged on an official elastic dye strap just yet, but that is something that I'm looking at. But the purpose of this video, guys, was to really just display what I've got on my first line, and then put the question to you guys, right? What would you have me change as far as my first line goes? What does your first line look like? Do you have a first line? Have you thought that far ahead? Or do you think this is all ridiculous and you'll never need it? Again, you know, I'm of the preparedness mindset in the sense that I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And if you're watching this video, you and I probably agree that this type of stuff is pretty cool, regardless of whether or not we need it. And frankly, we don't need to. This is America, and if I want it, that's enough. Without further ado, y'all, I'm the bearded brother. I'm gone.